You're now tuning in to
The Moon.
the Moon's Best Podcast.
Funky dog head, bitch.
Okay. Tell me about
The different cults.
Yeah, tell me about the cults.
Okay, so they're like different, like, so like the idea is just they're
There you go.
they're more cults in like the day to day than we'd really like to think. You know, people generally think of like cults as like this fringe thing that like you don't see that much.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess like the concept behind this like idea, I don't know like what it'll end up being. Probably like an essay. Probably rate it. Just with like the main thesis being that cults are more pervasive in day-to-day society than we like to think.
Can you give an example?
So one would be like a personality cult, you know, like the cool kid in high school. Like they kind of have like a little cult following in their own way. Like it is like a cult, right? There's the coolest kid and people emulate their activities and they're like they do their bidding to a degree. Like it gets pretty fucked, you know.
Yeah. I guess it kind of comes from like normally when you have a cult, you have like a guru or someone in the middle, and in a way everyone's trying to become that person.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it kind of makes sense with like you're trying to be the cool kid.
Even in like a household though, there's like the father figure, and that in like more like conservative settings generally falls in the same way. Like I've noticed it's like really common for like Slavic descents or like Middle Eastern families where like you see like the dad and then they have like 3 sons and the sons are just like little versions of the dad almost, you know what I mean?
But you would consider that what, a cult of personality?
Similar, like it's more of like a familial cult, you know? But it is the same idea, but like instead of having to brainwash someone, you just start with like a wad of cookie dough, you know?
That's true. I don't know if I would quite... I understand the thinking behind it, but I don't know if I'd quite call that a cult. Just because a cult typically requires some level of choice. Like you are choosing to be there. You are choosing to be a part of that system. When you're raised in that environment, you don't really have a choice. There's nowhere really you can go. You're kind of just forced to be that. Where
in some cases, but there are some cases where just that, like, I don't know, like we inherit our father's sins, you know?
I agree with that, but I think that's more of just like everyday life than a cult, I guess, is what I'm going with that.
True.
There's also like the like, what's your take on communes and communities? How do you feel about them?
I mean, like, to each their own, right? Like, if you develop a commune with, like, your ideals in mind, and it works for you and the people that want to join your commune,
then fuck yeah.
That's great. Like, good for you. You know what I mean? I don't, like...
Oh, 100% agree with that.
If I don't live in the commune, it doesn't affect me for the most part, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
You could start a commune based off of butt sex, and, like, if that's what makes you happy, man, like, power to you. Right. I'm just not going to join your commune because that's not my thing.
Right.
You know?
Do you feel like communes are the future? Or they're a better way of living that eventually people will just kind of sect out into their own little communities?
I do feel we are too dependent on others in like day to day. I think there is also a resurgence in just general movements for people to like start growing their own food or like stuff like that, and I think that is a good direction to take. I mean, even this pandemic's kind of proven that like all the systems that we think we can rely on aren't as reliable as we thought they were. Like, the medical system got fucked, and everyone, like, no one saw it coming, you know what I mean?
I'm starting to, it's kind of helped me understand the value of chemistry, because
what kind of chemistry?
In general, in the sense of like, okay, like I know how to grow food to an extent. I'd like to think
like
that
the science chemistry.
I'd like to say that I understand the concepts of hunting, and I think I would make a pretty decent hunter. But if someone gets sick, without a comprehensive knowledge of chemistry, of how systems function, like,
that's more biology,
right? But it comes from, like, I understand your fascination with like pharmaceuticals and understanding how to actually make those compounds, because like I don't have that knowledge. So like I don't know what plant I can use if I get a headache. I don't know what thing I can take if I'm in pain. Like, without the over-the-counter stuff, like
you're fucked.
I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm starting to see the value of someone who understands the process of literally making anything out of anything.
Yeah. That is where I like to be.
Yeah.
That's something, I don't know, it kind of like formed naturally, but like I just, like, I don't know. I like learning new things too. Mm-hmm. Like, my favorite part in the learning process is when I don't know anything. That's my favorite.
When you're brand new.
Yeah, that's the best. It's like, holy shit, like, look at all this cool shit I have to learn. Like,
exactly.
If it's a topic that interests me, like, it's awesome. Like, the main issue is, like, once you, like, get to a point where, like, you've already, like, read and, like, got the gist of it, now just, like, the nitty-gritty, like, detail work, you know?
Becoming an expert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you have to become an expert in everything. Like,
no.
It's extremely valuable to just have a general grasp of how the world works. I think like a lot of people overlook that, and like a lot of people have like fear, and like they get frustrated simply because they just don't have a basic understanding of physics, of chemistry, of it's fucked. Like you'll like see people, like they'll be like, it'll be wintertime and they'll be like, oh, like my door is fucked, and like they won't even connect it to the fact that it's winter and that like things in the cold get like tighter and smaller, and maybe that's why their door is pulling harder or
not that
something's
like actually wrong.
Yeah, they would just be like, oh, the door is fucked, I have to call someone to fix the door, you know?
It's that logical process.
Yeah, like people don't have that nowadays. It's fucked.
It's definitely lacking.
But I feel like just general science is what gives you that. I think
that fear comes from, though, like, it's very frustrating, and it's very, not upsetting, but it can be embarrassing when you've spent hours and hours trying to learn something. You've watched videos, you've read papers, you have literature, but then you go and try to explain what you've learned, and in 30 seconds, you can't even break it down because you don't even really know what the hell you're talking about.
Well, then you didn't do a good enough job.
Right. But that can be demoralizing. Especially if, like, let's say you are really interested in learning, you were very interested in learning about the behavior of robins. Okay. So you spend like a whole day, like, researching robins. That's how you spent your day. You're like excited about it. But then, like, someone asks, like, oh, like, I heard this about the sleeping patterns of robins. Like, why is that?
Yeah.
And now you're sitting there like, fuck, I just spent all this time talking about how I know about robins and I don't know that. And then for some people, they go, oh, that's really interesting, I'm going to go look into that. But for a lot of people, that's just demoralizing, and now they give it up.
Dude, I've been, like, meditating for, like, 3 to 4 years now, and you asked me, like, oh, what's meditation about? And, like, I'll probably just sit there for, like, the first 20 seconds and be like, let me think about this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't, like, being an expert doesn't mean you know everything.
No, that's true.
Being an expert just means you know your shit overall.
That's true.
And like, I don't know, especially with like computers, man, like in like cybersecurity and like shit like that in programming, like Google's your best friend. Anyone in computers or IT that tells you they don't Google shit all day is probably full of shit. You know, unless you're doing something that like you've already done so many times and it's already like monotonous already, like you have a routine set up and like a workflow, then like if it's a new problem you're tackling, you're just Googling shit.
I feel like I do kind of, it's this question I want to start asking more often, which is, when you were 14, what was the thing that you did? Because I'm a super firm believer of the time plus effort equals success. And like for you and me, that's like been very apparent. Whereas like when you were 14, you were doing coding. When Bill Gates was like 10, he was doing coding. When Elon Musk, now they're coders and engineers and that's what they do. For me, when I was that age, I was doing music. Now music is the thing that I'm really good at, and I don't have to try so hard. And I have an outlook that comes from experience, not from knowledge, which is far more valuable.
Yeah.
So I love the idea, because you kind of get to see like who people are at their core, and I feel like sometimes people don't even
selling drugs.
Yeah, but like, which it makes, because so that is a big part of who you are now. That is a big thing that like defines you. But it's, I feel like whatever that one. So like, I'll give you an example. So like yesterday, when I was, I went on a date, and when I was talking to her about, like what she was doing when she was 14, she was like, I guess science. So even though she ended up going into, you know, education and doing this and that, she was into science, and now she's back to science. It was her.
Dude, I used to love science when I was a kid.
That's what I said too. I remember being like,
dude, I made nitroglycerin in my backyard and set it off with a hammer. I made a fission reactor that turned uranium plates into plutonium. Like I took it to another level of backyard science, man. Like it was wild. I made like TATP. I made like all kinds of different explosives, but like just in small amounts to set off and fuck around.
Do you feel like you could ever end up being in that field?
I was looking into it, man, and I think like with so far like what I've done, if there were a place where I could be like most useful, I think it could be in like special effects. That was like my thinking, because I like could do the art stuff. I like chemistry. I like mechanical shit. That's robotics.
Great idea.
Yeah, I like all that shit, and like animatronics, all that stuff. Like I could see myself doing that, and like it's really
you'd really enjoy it too, because it's you get to be creative too.
Yeah, exactly.
And you need a level of mechanical skills. You need a level of cognitive skills. And if you're like, oh, like I know how to code that thing to do this, they're like, oh, cool. Like,
exactly.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Because when you think about like the type of guys that like, you know, Jamie and Adam from Mythbusters were.
Yeah, exactly. They're like,
they kind of did a bit of everything.
Yeah.
Like Adam is amazing at making shit. Like he can make pretty much anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then Jamie is just like really smart and knows how to like.
Dude, he's done so many different things though. He's been like a line cook, a welder, like movie director. Like he's done.
But it's all those things that came together to like be a success, because special effects is really only limited to the special effects team you have.
Exactly.
And every time new groundbreaking stuff happens, it's because they had a team that figured out how to make new shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be fucking so cool, man. Hell yeah.
Dude, even for like the Moonbase like TikToks and stuff, we'll see where we go push it, man.
That would be so fucking sick. Not even gonna lie. That'd be so cool.
Just get into special effects.
Just start doing like prop stuff.
And it would be like a dope portfolio to have too.
Oh yeah. for sure.
Oh, props would be like just fun. Like honestly, man, like dude, think about like just how many things I'm like interested in that are like half the props, like weapons or like just like weird like monsters or shit. Like it's cool stuff you
That's
get
true.
to make. Like it sound like from what I've seen, like special effects would be a pretty sick gig.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it like does take a specific kind of person, which I think I am. I just have to find a way to market that properly.
I wonder if there's like some sort of certificate or something you're supposed to like. I imagine because it's just such a wealth of different experiences, you kind of just have to join the union and.
But I don't know, even having like a military background could help with that.
Maybe.
It's like, yeah, I like have handled like some degree of pyrotechnics and shit like that, Like I can shoot like a gun and not like I won't be shook or any, you know what I mean?
Right.
There's just like general little shit like that helps.
Yeah, that is true. I actually think about that a lot, about how it's funny, like the idea that like I'll sleep pretty much through anything except gunfire and explosions. At that point, I'm immediately awake and doing whatever I need to do to like prep for that situation.
Dude, even like, I'll be sleeping and like the lady will try to like wake me up sometimes and like, it just doesn't
But
happen.
if there's like even a little bit of like yelling,
or
gunfire,
like the door opens, bro, the front door, like I hear the
Oh,
knob
yeah.
turning
Up.
like
immediately.
yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that skill so much. That's funny. How was that?
It's all right. Yesterday, I fucked around a bit more with magic.
Yeah.
So I fucked around with this thing called the Lesser Key. Well, it's the Goetia in its completion, but it's the Greater Key of Solomon and the Lesser Key of Solomon.
Please go on.
And so the story behind that is that King Solomon trapped 72 demons into a brass vessel.
Okay.
And he wrote these 2 books for instruction on how to summon them and how to like guide, like how to command them to do shit for you.
Damn.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like, so like the idea behind it is that these 72 demons are just aspects of like your psyche and your personality.
Right.
So by doing these rituals, you can like invoke that part of your personality to like kind of like manifest what you want. But it's also like super ancient magic, so like sometimes people fuck around with it and weird shit will happen.
That sounds like the Payo Mayombe, where like they drink, you like drink from the cauldron and you absorb like the soul of that person. You like take their power. It's like a very
but like these demons are already like in you. It's not even a demon, like it's not the right word to use.
Okay.
It's really just like a set of like traits almost, like. But there's some that are like.
Yeah, that sounds kind of fucked actually.
There's some that are like supposed to be like almost like too powerful to invoke, so you don't like.
That almost just
generally
sounds
fuck
like some
around.
really like ancient like hypnosis or like psychotherapy techniques that they like just discovered and like called it magic, but it wasn't.
But
it was
it's
just,
all like
ways
written in
to.
code and stuff. So like,
Yeah,
you
that
have to, like,
sounds-
spend like months to decode all this
Jeez.
like ritual work and shit, and yeah, like it's interesting. It's fun.
That sounds amazing. So how far have you gotten?
Well, there's different processes with magic. So right now I'm working through this curriculum for the Golden Dawn, and I've pretty much
Okay.
done all the work it's like four months of work.
Yeah, you've been doing a lot of prep. Yeah.
Up to like the main self-initiation, which is when you're supposed to just like absorb this like main current of magic. But I don't know, I've already gone to a point where there are things like I don't know, I was like reflecting on it, and like every once in a while I'll do like a tarot pull, just like do a spread just to like see what's up. And I'll be like, like there have been times where I'm like, like there's no like like, you know, like no, whatever. And then like I'll think back on it and it was like, fuck man, like if only I had like paid more attention to what those fucking cards had told me. And that's happened on like multiple occasions too. So it's like shit. Like,
when are you gonna do your ceremony?
I have to like build a whole bunch of shit for it.
That could be a really cool
episode.
That could be a really cool thing for people to actually get to see what that looks like, and like the amount that it would take and the effort to go. That's not like something that you have to do, because I know that's like a very like personal thing.
It just like weird. It's like something like you have to be like meditating the whole time, and like as soon as you introduce like a camera or a microphone, like I don't know, at least like I generally get more self-conscious, and
that's fair.
Takes away a lot from what like the experience could be.
What do you think you're going to take away from it? Do you think you're going to go through it and wake up the next day just feeling a little bit better, or do you think it's actually going to make like a profound effect on your day-to-day?
Well, there's a point in magic where like you reach, so like the tree of life also represents like kind of like the magical path.
Okay. And
then once you reach like a certain point, you almost have to make an active decision of, am I gonna let magic just be like a hobby or like something I do in my free time, or is this gonna become my life?
So it's like the Doctor Strange thing where it was like that guy who he like lost the ability to walk, and he learned enough magic to channel it so that he could have his life back, versus Doctor Strange who could do that, or he could dedicate himself to the actual mystical arts.
Yeah.
Like there's like
you have a choice. Like you either you're gonna use magic like in like your day to day kind of passively, like,
or you're gonna dedicate yourself to the craft.
Magic is gonna be like your life, and your end goal is going to be like a goal within
like enlightenment magic of some sort.
It's past that. So in Eastern practices, the end goal is enlightenment, but with magic, like enlightenment's generally the first step.
Jeez.
That's when you like you're able to, well, it's not like full enlightenment, right? Because you still go through it with like some kind of an ego.
Yeah.
Because you're like conscious of it as like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a point, what like magic's goal is, there's this thing called crossing the abyss.
Okay.
And that would be like the equivalent of your first like enlightenment, or like your first like experience of like awakening, samadhi or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
But past that, like there's so much more work, and like there you can like navigate different planes of, well, they are planes of existence, but it's just not existence as we would like think of it classically, you know?
Do you think you're going to dedicate yourself to it? Or do you think you're just going to use it to help your life?
I don't know. I guess I'll see at that point. It really depends on the circumstances. But then once you get to that point, it's like in your day-to-day, like most of your thoughts are towards like achieving that end goal of like your magical craft, you know?
Makes sense.
Like generally the people that go that route, they get like books going or something related to magic too, and like all their income is really just made to sustain them, and so they could like sit in their apartment and do magic. Like that's all.
So it's the equivalent of like the dude that goes out to the forest to you know, punch a tree 1,000 times till he does it perfectly, to like master his craft.
It's like the Buddha, or like you know, when he like all those like gurus, they all have a period where they go into the forest or whatever in a cave in solitude.
Yeah.
It's kind
until
of like
they
that.
put the pieces together and then
Yeah.
emerge and
It's
preach
kind
what
of
they've
like
learned.
that,
Yeah. I think at some point I was interested. Like, I remember when I got into Islam, there was a time where I thought I was going to dedicate myself to be an Islamic scholar. Because I was just so fascinated with it, and I was so infatuated with the idea that my life could be predetermined. It could be set up, and I wouldn't have to do anything else. This would just be my life.
There's Islamic-based magic too.
I believe that.
Even with like prayer, like when the concept of you praying in the way that when you ask for something, you ask as if it's already been done. That's already magic, you know? You're communicating to this like pre-programmed divine intelligence.
Right.
With your desired objective. You're putting enough faith and belief into it that you either subconsciously like hardwire it till like you make it happen,
Right.
or
I
whatever
think,
working behind the universe might do that for you.
I think that's where my infatuation with Taoism comes in, because it's all on you. It's turning the light inward. It's you already have all of the answers. You just need to find them within yourself. And there's no divine anything. It's just, so I have this, I actually got to use the metaphor today, and I was really excited. So I'm going to tell you my kind of view on life. So I see there's a path. There's a you can call it predetermined. You can call it whatever you want, but there is a path that you are supposed to be on, and each person has their own path that they are supposed to walk from life to death. Who they are supposed to be. It could be, you could interpret that as your true nature. You could interpret that as predisposition. You could interpret that as fate. However you want to interpret it, there's a path. And along this path, there's these holes. And you never know how deep these holes are. So sometimes you stumble in, sometimes you fall in, sometimes you go in intentionally. And sometimes you're like, fuck, like, this is awesome. You like discover all these new things. You go back on your path. You're like, cool, I feel way more well equipped. I feel great. Sometimes you go in these holes and it fucks you up as a person. It destroys you. But at the end of the day, it was just a hole. And I feel like, for me especially, Taoism is the awareness of when I'm in a hole versus when I'm on the path. So to me, I feel like I'm finally back on the path. I don't feel like I'm in a hole anymore. It's, some people equate it to like, because I give this metaphor a lot too. Like, I feel like I'm supposed to turn the page. I feel like I'm stuck. Like, I feel like I'm supposed to hit the next chapter, but I don't know what to do. That's a hole. You're stuck in a hole. Once you get out, once you get back on that path, you just need to understand why this path is your path. Maybe that's meditating on your true nature. Maybe that's praying to your God. Maybe that's like reflecting on how everything you've been through has made you into a certain type of person. But the whole concept of Taoism is Wu Wei. It's to give in to that flow and to practice a mastery of understanding what, based on your nature, who and what you're supposed to be. And then that way everything is effortless. Because you go, that's exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And then it's not hard because you know you're supposed to be doing it. And you're equipped to do it. You're already naturally, because you were supposed to be there, you're already ready to do it. It's like sometimes when, this feels like that sometimes. Like doing this podcast.
But would that mean if you show up to a competition and fail, that your place in life was being ready to show up to that competition and accept failure?
Maybe. Or maybe showing up to that competition and failing. Like, I'll give you an example. The guy that just won the flyweight belt yesterday, that guy was the lowest contender on the UFC, on Ultimate Fighter. He was cut after like 2 fights. He got cut from the UFC after so he had to win a flyweight title and another league, got back to the UFC, got a title fight, lost in a decision, got another title fight, and guess what? He won. He finally won. Now he's the flyweight champion of the world in UFC. Yeah. So all of those things equipped him for that moment.
True.
So sometimes I feel like you have to look at it as like it's a very Taoist way to look at it too. Like, the more ugly I see, the more beautiful the world now is to me. So you don't be upset when things are bad. You're excited because you're going, things are bad right now, which means everything's going to be even better for me later.
True. It's a good way to look at things.
Yeah. Water resides in the lowliest place, yet it nurtures all. That idea that you have to always stay grounded and everyone's at the same level, right? The most powerful thing in the world, water, doesn't discriminate. It provides for everything and everyone. So if you want to be the most powerful thing in the universe, you provide for everything and everyone. Yeah.
That's cool.
I got pretty like deep there for a bit, but
that was cool.
Yeah. All right, I think we'll
sign off.
We'll close out there. That was the 3rd episode of the Moonbase Podcast. Stay tuned for what comes next. We have lots of stuff in the works. We're hoping to get a very special guest on the next episode, and we'll see you soon.
Got some bad news, folks. So it seems that our cryoregulators are broken and that the Moonbase starship is currently freezing, and we're experiencing a temperature drop, and our ship is slowly becoming encased in ice. And really the only way we could possibly fix this is with Patreon donations. If you check out the Moonbase Podcast at Patreon. Yeah, things aren't looking great. There's a Yeti outside our windshield now. We're in some kind of ice cave, and we need those cryoregulators to keep us warm. And the Yeti seems to be trying to communicate to us somehow. Seems to be making some kind of gesture. Oh, it's telling us to go fuck ourselves. And he seems angry, so should probably get this shit fixed pretty quickly. So yeah, check us out at the Moonbase at Patreon. And that way you can support the Moonbase Podcast and get us out of this sticky situation.